tap into your most original thinking, organize your ideas, and create the opportunities to launch your creative work. Unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson.
Well, welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Unlocking Your World of Creativity. And this is the podcast where we talk about reclaiming and re-engaging with our own creativity and our process. But also, there is that business side where you say, I'm creating the work, but I need to launch it and get the value out of it out into the world. And that's the topic with my guest today, Michaell Magrutsche. Michaell, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mark. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. Michaell is Vienna, Austria, born, raised, educated, now living and working in Southern California. So he's got a great global perspective. Michaell, you work with a lot of people, and this last book that you wrote, The Smart of Art, talked about reclaiming their value and their passion that a lot of creatives sort of undervalue, and therefore you've recognized it too, the starving artist, image. But what is it about our passion for our art, our creativity, that often needs to be reclaimed and rekindled?
So there's two issues here, because you talked about the starving artist and also the reclaiming. So both the starving artist is, and this is the symptom of all of the essence that I found in my last book. Artists have never defined their value. When you go to a guy that does bicycles, or a plumber or an electrician, he can tell you exactly why you're paying $3,000 for. An artist has no idea. It's just the ego, what the ego says. If somebody has no value for art and says, give me $50 for that painting. And the other said, I want $40 for the same painting, $40,000 for the same painting. And that's the problem. And that's the source of all problems, because we have never defined ourselves, what we do. We have never said, in the old days, the artists were guilds, but that's the same, they were in guilds, like, making beautiful staircases and whatever, but that's today's creative technicians, NFT junkies or whatever. So the art itself is where the value is. That's the purity, the purity of creativity is in art.
So let me capture and underscore something you said about the ego almost setting the price. Is it because we lack the confidence, or is that we don't really know what our art is worth?
Because we don't know. Super question mark. Because we don't know, we just wing it. Look at all these success books out there. Mm-hmm. Look at everybody writes about success. And I can tell you from myself only, I sold $11,000 paintings. I, was arts commission of Newport Beach, blah, 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 blah. I had never an idea how I got there and how this happened. If you really think about it, you assume after the fact that this is what you did. I did social media, I did this, and I talked to the customer, and then I sold. You don't know that you can sell. You can't even tell your wife that you are, you want to give a wedding ring to your wife, to your future wife or husband, and you can't even figure out a ring for them, because you go to the jeweler and you say, I know you like a ruby. You would like that ring, right? And she says, yeah, but that diamond is, or that what an emerald is what I like. And the same with ties. She says, oh, that's such a, I know you like navy blue. And then you go navy blue and you see this yellow tie next to it. It says, for my money, I would buy this. So we can't. And I think in our society, because success is so important, and to create and to new, and always, and there's no cycles, no seasons. In economy, because the principle of economy is very, very limited. It has to get more and more and more. Bottom line, negative, what they call it, they call when they don't make money, they call it negative growth. It's right. Completely focused on making more, faster, cheaper. And the human doesn't work with that. And the
Well,
funny thing,
and I think about an artist way back. I knew that, was entering some of his first work in galleries and so
yeah,
forth. And he, like you said, hey, I think it'll be $240. And I thought, why not 24,000? Why don't you just add a couple of zeros on the back? Because who would know? I think it's fantastic,
yeah.
but the
No,
market, I guess, has to decide.
the market decides, because this is the big misunderstanding. When an artist creates a piece of art, not like something the market wants, let's say something like that, like mine behind me. When I create that, I have so much joy creating it that then once it's a product, it's a product. It's like a bicycle. It's like, and that is hard to compartmentalize, because the market, the art market that we know art market. We don't know art. We're not smart about art outside of systems. That's why I started my podcast. And I wanted to re-educate humanity, because then we can value from both sides why it's important that we have art in our world, and why it needs to be, and it's funny because why it needs to be supported. And why do you support it? I know people that spend $1 million, donating for this event or for whatever. And when I talk to these people and I ask them, why did you support art? I said, it's great. It's just, it's great, and people and all this stuff. But really nobody can tell me why it's really important, because everybody feels it. The feeling is there, because the feeling is not there to give $1 million to the plumbers union. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it is to the
and
arts.
So in your experience, and now that you've captured it in the new book, and I do want to move into that, how does one shift the brain? We're truly working on the left and the right side now.
Exactly.
We're creating art, but now we have to, value it, sell it. And there is that system that you've been describing. How does one get our arms around that?
And what we have to compartmentalize is this: the magical process of creating, right? That's where you grow. That's where you get the wisdom. That's why you see, I can think something and it turns out better than I think, worse than I think. You get always instant feedback, and it's not about the other, because right now you're in the process of creating. And then you have to disengage when you're done with it. And that's the hard thing for artists. They can't disengage because the experience was so magical. It's like you dated a girl and she was so magical, and you said, why is that not anymore? So you need to digest that experience. And then, because a lot of artists cannot give away the art, because they can't price it and they can't give it away, because it's always too less for some and always too much for others. So if they can see, once I'm done with the magic creation, now I milk that moment like we do now, and then I'm good, I'm saturated, and now I can detach and give the painting in the market. And then an expert and a businessman, a gallerist, is the best. A gallerist or sell it in an auction, or have somebody be a manager, is usually the best, because they are detached. See, your attachment to your creation blinds and blurs the sales. And you're always insecure. I mean, artists have no problem.
I was going to say, almost insecure on both sides of it. It's
Exactly.
not as good as I think it is, or somebody else might, or hey, this is great, it should be $1 million.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
you're really not
you can't know,
separated.
Because art and creativity is human, and all the systems are human creation. So nature and human were not created by us, but the systems were all created by us, and therefore systems are always limited. They're never, because if I freak out right now, you are born with the intelligence and the wisdom to handle me. You turn off the podcast, you yell at me or whatever, but you're programmed like I am, limitless. You're human, you're programmed limitless. From computers, there's no such thing as limitless, because humans come up with problems and problems and problems, and we make it better and better and better because we are limitless. Any system is limited. Mm-hmm. And therefore we need to, what art does is the art creation, it pushes you, or even the observation of art, and it pushes you into humanity. And there's another magic. See, this is what people need to be aware of. Go to any opening, art opening, and you have Republicans, Democrats, any race, woman, man, transgender, and everybody's talking. And you know, the funniest thing is nobody looks at the art. That's the magic, because you're surrounded by purity, by that purity. If it's good art, then you surrounded by that, and then you just feel humane. And humans are herd animals, and we like to be with each other.
Yes. Well, and you've, in addition to the podcast and the book, you've taken this idea of teaching to the next level. I mean, you're coaching, you're counseling many artists, and I've seen some of the YouTubes of their experiences. Yeah. How can you teach it is the question. How can you transfer this knowledge of taking your creative feelings and putting it into a system to make it, commercially successful?
There is no such thing, because if you do this is another delusion that we tell each other. We wing it. We say, okay, I make the best bicycle right now that is better than any bicycle in the world. And that can work and it cannot work. But we pretend we know it's going to work. And then if it doesn't, we know how to blame, because systems always blame. Humans say, it's the opposite of humans. Humans say, oh, it's my fault. And it isn't even your fault, but you still say, it's my fault, I'm sorry, But systems always look at the war. Who is blaming and finger pointing? It's all the pretend. And the sad thing is, on the other side, it's not the system that are mean, humans. So it's limitlessness, creativity of limitlessness against creativity of limitlessness in the creation and maintenance of systems against each other. So humans fight against each other with their limitless creativity. Look at the viruses, antivirus software. It's the best example. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So it's a joke. And we waste our energy. The bottom line, what's really the best, because you could say, okay, if there's a good and a bad and they fight each other, they get all better, right? But the sad thing is, we're herd animals. We're here to enjoy and be in the habitat of nature, see the beauty of this planet, and the beauty of that every human is different. Mm-hmm. I relish in meeting new people, even on Zoom. It's always a new person, and friendship happen, and even if there's no friendships happen, the experience in the moment is so great. If I never talk to you anymore, I don't want that, but if that would happen, or if something happens to me in the next minute,
that the connection has been made.
The connection has been made.
Well, let's take that to the next chapter, so to speak, of our conversation. We've talked about rekindling our passion for the art, but also moving into the values. I think thirdly, Michaell, I'd like to talk about your own work, because you've described this uplifting and charging and feel of the room. Your work has been described as liminal hard edge and reductive pop and even antidepressant. We could use some of that wall power, as it's been called. Yeah. What is it about the work that you have developed your own style, this kind of shapes and colors and things like that you put into your artwork? What drives that for you?
I just have a feeling. So I feel like, let's say, I feel like pink, like here, or a fuchsia. I feel like that, and I see something like a square and a circle, and I see that somewhere. Like, say, you would have a logo on your shirt, and my mind goes right away to it and creates it. But I'm dyslexic, extremely dyslexic, so my mind goes off on your size on your shirt. And then I say, and I draw a little bit, and then I put it on now I can put it on a computer. Before I was drawing till I have the final till I was happy, and then I transferred it onto the canvas. Today I primarily do, on digital works, and if somebody wants any, like if you want that painting, I would make you that painting. Okay, so if you want, so people go on my website, they look and say, can you make that in this size? It's also much more easier because you can say, I have this place, and I can show you a rendering also, for which all the artists do. I was one of the first that did renderings for people, so they look at the thing, especially because I wrote a book on art for public spaces because of my arts commissioner. I saw there was a need, and that's how I do it. And now every artist does. That's the problem, is the artists get pushed away from art, from making art. They're business first, and that's the sad thing, because we could have much better art that we have now, right now, if people wouldn't worry about the how they sell it.
Yeah,
and there's an overabundance of art. There's an overabundance of art.
Well, and as you said, you can express the creativity in many medium. I've also noticed you have photography, you have music, this kind of multimedia expression. And sometimes you bring all those together in a unique combination.
But every artist is that. The artists, and I wrote this in my 2 books or so ago, all artists, because I was thinking, why am I only? Because I'm very me, as you can tell, right? So I wasn't worried about the market. And most artists that I know were worried about the market. How would I look? I mean, when I grew up in Vienna, you went to the Academy of Applied Arts. My uncle was a teacher there, and you go there, and there was few artists for the many, and now are many artists for the few. And it just shifted over. But the people looked and said, for example, I was at the table. This is a great story. I was at a table with the chief of the academy, and with very, very elaborate, and with my uncle, who was master teacher. And on Sunday, we all talked about art. And they said, Andy Warhol and Picasso are no artists. Because I was a fan. I was young. I was 15 years old. I was a fan of the colors, obviously, and I loved Picasso. And they said they're boasting, and and said, how can you say that? Made no sense. Because a person that makes, and I think Picasso was still alive, and it was 30, he did 30,000 paintings. Now he has 38,000, And they said, nobody can be an artist that can make 38,000 paintings. And anyone that photographs and paints on photos can also not be a thing. I'm just saying, it's changed constantly. That's why you can't worry about systems. You got to do what feels good to you. And I want to invite everybody to create art. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about the market. Milk the process. What comes to you, and you can't think about all your problems when you're in the moment of creating. There's no spiritual discipline as strong as creating art, because you're in the moment. You're not in yoga. I can think about all my problems. I'm not dissing yoga. But when you do art, you focus so much because you don't know what comes out.
You're in the moment. Well, you prompted another question that I often get from creative people, and that's about the space or the place or the city in which you're working. You mentioned the environment of Vienna, in Southern California, a different vibe. Somebody says, if I want to do music, I need to go to Nashville. If I want to do wine, I need to go to Napa or, Bordeaux, or theater, Broadway. Does the place that one is developing their creativity, what is your view on that?
You're describing vibrations, right? You said there's a vibe.
That's a vibe for sure. And even the environment, I guess, or the ecosystem and the supporters and collaborators that might be there. But I just wonder about, especially in a much more virtual, and hey, we can travel, we can go anywhere we want, but does the place matter?
Virtual can will never, ever replicate Napa Valley or Southern California or Vienna or the desert. It doesn't matter. You know, it will never be able to give you, because what you described, you said the vibe. So that's our sense. That's the unlimited self. That's the soul. The soul recognizes Napa, and a lot of souls on this earth recognize it as Napa. Because if I say make the desert a wine country, I don't get a following. You see, so when there's a strong vibration of this, obviously humans are sensitive. I mean, you know, when an animal dies or so, it can still be warm and has the fur, but what is that in you that recognize that is dead? See, and that is what recognized in Napa. That confirms Napa is this, and Vienna is culture and classical, and Southern California is surf and VW buses. You know.
Yes, exactly.
So
well, and I guess it goes back to that feeling that is emitting from the work, and so is the vibe. I guess a feeling that is coming from the place.
Yeah, and often if something comes from a total different place or from a person. So this is another wonderful thing. When you see a person, you know a person for a long time, and all of a sudden say, you know what, Mark, I'm a closet artist. And you look at our painting or his painting and you blow away. You all of a sudden makes all sense in the person. You can recognize that person so much clearer, even if it's your wife and she has never shown you, because what you read out of it is not a bit code, bits.
Mm-hmm.
You're reading soul. You know, you're reading our unlimited self, the unlimitedness you read, and that's what we're all looking for. That's why wisdom. This is what we talk about right now. Is wisdom. It's not knowledge. Knowledge is temporary. It goes out and in. You know, all the knowledge that science found is already outdated, except Newton's law. You know,
yes.
But basically, and gravity. But basically, everything else, knowledge is very short. And to be with art, you get in touch with your wisdom. That's why I call art the language of wisdom.
So good.
And science is the language of knowledge, and of course people too. But we communicating on totally different levels. We the words that we speak, so it's just sounds. We actually connecting over our limitless self. You know,
makes so much sense. Well,
Yeah.
Michael, I have one last question for you, but before we get too far, I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you, find you, and learn more about your work and your programs.
Yeah, it's michaellm.com. Michael with two L's, m.com. michaellm.com. And this is my hub. You get my social, you get all the stuff there. Social media.
It's all there. We'll find the content, the books,
everything.
the links to the videos. It's all there.
What I recommend is go. I have a 30-second podcast, and this is a podcast of wisdom. And because everything that counts for art always counts for human. And you just look at that twice a week. It comes out. I think I have 64 episodes right now, and I have 350. So it's I keep adding to it because I become aware of things and then put it in words. And that alone will help you so much, because you're not just listening to something and regurgitating. You're just listening, and it makes you think. There's a statement and a question. And I say, if it doesn't resonate, just throw it away, discard it. But if it does, let it come up, what it means for you. We gotta be more wise. More knowledge and more doing and more apps and more technology is not gonna get us anywhere.
That's right. Well, the podcast is quite provocative. So listeners, I will post a link in the show notes. But this idea that here's a thought and a question, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, was that it? Yeah, that was 30 seconds. So now it's on you to think. And you can think as long as you want.
Exactly.
Because
I believe our connection. I believe in that we are interconnected. And I believe that humanity can save itself. It doesn't need systems. It doesn't need to hide or be angry at systems, because that's the two things. The one that navigates is angry at systems, and the other. But really, if the humans would talk to each other And now you can't get even anybody on the phone anymore. So,
yeah.
you know, we could handle things very easily with very few words, or we can go through systems and stay on hold, get the next technician, get the next technician, and our life juice is lost. Why are we here on Earth?
As we close, Michaell, let's think ahead to the future. And you mentioned public art commissions. I'm really curious about your sense of public art and what the future is. And some of that might be murals on the walls, and those are still going strong. But what else can we think about in our communities to create that feeling outside our homes, outside the walls, not just inside museums and galleries?
I love this question because this is, you know, I was very much for we have a sculpture garden in Newport Beach, and they want to do static arts for the longest time. And I was fighting that, and we have now rotating art. I think public art needs to be rotated because, like humans rotate and die, you know, or come and go. So art is so parallel to humans. So art needs to come and go. Then you don't have anybody saying, oh, this is a bad art, or this is not correct. All the system definition of political correctness and all this stuff, we need to let that go with art. We can be politically correct all we want, but with art, we have to let it go, because art needs to be the only space where everything is still allowed and expressed. Yeah. And we say, the system says it's not right. I mean, look at how women's changed and how we are aesthetics of women need to have this and need to have that, or man, and whatever. We change constantly in systems. And the human stuff is the diversity. It's a strength, it's not a weakness. The system has made it a weakness because that they can handle our limitlessness. And they made us racist. They made us gender phobic, you know? And now they want to do another system, PC, to fix it. See, it doesn't work for the creative podcast. It doesn't work because you can't create something to do another thing to help that. And, you know, humans leave, they die, they come up. Systems stay and get stronger all the time. And it's no wonder we feel that Nike is more worth than a human person, or Apple, or you know, a Ferrari.
But I love your description of this organic nature, and it harkens back to one of your first thoughts on seasons, right? But if the art even moved around town versus just 100%. Staying in the same place. I love that.
And not buying. I mean, you help more artists by giving them a commission, which we do in Newport Beach. I mean, I'm not living in Newport Beach anymore, but that's what we do. And I think you help more people, but give them exposure, and then they have an experience of being, and they have something for the system, you know, for selling, and that helps selling, because if you have a sculpture in the sculpture garden here and there, it helps you, you know, it helps the systems to validate you. But the best is still that we value ourselves. I mean, I started the whole thing, and I hope that a lot of people are connecting with me and express it all over the world, that we have to define our own values, why art is important. You know, and I think we did a good job today, Mark.
We did. We covered a lot of ground. And listeners, this is just the kind of conversation. This is why we call it a world of creativity. For one, we want to go around the world and hear these thoughts, and what somebody is doing in Stockholm, and what somebody's doing in Vietnam, and what somebody's doing in Southern California. And today's guest, you know, hailing from Vienna to Southern California, you know, we get both ends of the spectrum there. But two of my keys that I took away from our conversation was definitely focus on the feeling of the work and the creation that the emotions can come out of, but then have this systems approach to have the business side and the valuation side of your work to keep our egos maybe a little bit more neutral, that we don't undervalue, we don't overvalue, we don't get too attached to our own work, and let the buyers, the markets, decide if we do want to make it a commercial venture. So my guest has been Michaell Magrutsche. You go to his website, Michaell, as he said, with 2 L's, michaellm.com. And listeners, come back again for our next episode. We'll continue these around the world journeys. We've passed 200 episodes now, more than 100,000 downloads. So it says something about the desire for more people to listen to the experiences of creative practitioners like Michaell today. So we'll find out what inspires them, how they organize the work, and most of all, gain the confidence and the connections to launch their work out into the world. So until next time, I'm Mark Stinson, and we're unlocking your world of creativity. Bye for now.
Unlocking Your World of Creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This program was produced by BSB Media, creators of IntelliKey Leadership Stories, Unlocking Your World of Creativity, and thepeaceroom.love. We've created a special offer just for listeners of the podcast. You can get the book, A World of Creativity, for a special price of $5.98 for paperback, and the Kindle version is only 99 cents. Go to mark-stinson.com to take advantage of this special offer.